Yo, what's up, aliens? Ahi here with another tutorial. Today I'm going to be going over how I recreated Subtronics' OmniDirectional track. Let's get into it. First up, I downloaded the actual track here and aligned it to the grid, and I noticed something right off the bat that was very interesting, is that all of the bass sounds here are actually a little bit off from the grid. If we go over to where the drop is, you'll see the drum transient here is there, but then the bass doesn't really pick up until a little bit afterward. You can see there, that's where like the drum transient would be. So one, he's shifted all of his basses backwards, or his drums forward, doesn't really matter, but in this case I'm going to say the bass is backwards. That makes programming our drums a lot easier. After that, I went through and I just kind of like figured out where all the transients were for the basses. You can see they're thicker, you know. So it goes da 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 da, which I have then recreated over here in the MIDI. So how did we do this? First off, let's open up the main sound here. Here you can see I've also knocked over where the actual MIDI begins, which I think this is on a triplicate grid, so you can see it's basically, yeah, it's like a 8th note or 16th note off or something like that. And I literally just drew in the pattern, the da 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 da. So it's kind of like switching back and forth between like 16th notes, quarter notes, and triplet notes. Did that visually with the audio track down here, like I just explained, also just by listening to. So here's all the crazy processing on this track. So without all the processing, sounds like that with the processing. So let's dive into what the heck is going on here. So in Serum, it's decently, I guess the waveforms are rather complex, but the processing, not really. So I've got a sub here, and I've got everything kind of going to this LFO shape here. And it's basically just a pluck. You know, with the low pass filter there. You can see it's attached to the cutoff, the level there, and then it's being FM from B from this thing, the level's off there. And then I just got a sub, so it's got that strong fundamental. And then I found a oscillator with like a lot of like kind of like gritty mid information. And then I found another wavetable that's got a lot of like high-end content and FM from that. And so it adds in that high end. The bend's not really important now, it's just experimenting around, but it's the combination with the sub. And then that filter. I guess the drive is up a little bit there. That's somewhat important, but you know, pretty simple, you know? What's the FM at? 33%? Yeah, there's no modulation there, no unison voices, nothing. Let's see what it looks like in span. Da, da, da. So yeah, it's got a pretty good shape here. You can see the bass, you know, goes down and then gradually goes back up, but you know, it's not full here. Now with all the processing, you can see here the sub is pretty pumping there at -24. The like third harmonic there is also pretty strong, just above -30. Lots of dip here in the muddiness between 200 and 400, then goes back up. And it's got some interesting spikes. Like it's almost like phase cutting out right there. It's kind of interesting. But how did we achieve that? I'm going to tell you right now, it's the saturator on the hard curve. This thing, when I discovered this, I was just like, oh, this is like so stupid simple. Like you just You'll hear the difference. So without it, oh, yeah. Also, I guess the ultra disperser actually does a lot too. So without that, just kind of beefs it up, and then this thing adds that cool space. This is one of my new racks in my volume 6. I believe this will be available down below. The ultra disperser is part of volume 5, I think, and you can get that as well from my website, ahibase.com/store. Or if you have a disperser here, you know, it does pretty much similar thing, but I don't know. I like mine because of this cold disperse setting. I just find that it wangs it. Like, so how a disperser, I believe how a disperser works is that it delays the entire frequency spectrum from 20 to 20,000 hertz. So it's either you hear the high end before you hear the low end. I'm not really sure which way it is, but I believe that that's how a disperser kind of works. Yeah, I just made it like exaggeratedly so with the ultra disperser, and it's got all these different settings. But I like the cold setting. And then plus the saturator. And then my little fat rack. The VR fat rack would work as well. And then, yeah, that. And you hear how it's kind of dry there. And then now with the space, it's basically like a super short like reverb throw, short as you can go, but and then like messing around with like the different impulse responses. And then after that, got some Serum effects that, yep, is indeed just adding in some phase. So that's what those phase cutting things I mentioned earlier was just from that. That's, yeah, let's see, without that, what does that sound like? You can see that cut that forms. You see the cut that forms right there. I just think it adds some character. I just sort of noticed in a lot of Skrillex tracks, he's like, even though this is Subtronics, I noticed that in Skrillex tracks he's got certain frequencies taken away, and it like adds a lot of character. I think in this song too, in Omnisphere, OmniDirectional, it's got some frequencies taken out. I don't want to play the original because I don't want to get a copyright claim, but you get it, I think. I hope so. And other than that, it's just a lot of really subtle EQing to get that shape that I want. If I was to turn off all the EQs, sound like this. You can see I'm trying to duck some of that low end there, some of that mid stuff, and boost the highs. Again, a lot of control in the low mids there, trying to make sure that that the harmonic there of the sub pushes through while everything around it is reduced. And then I've got it on a scale. I kind of like overkilled it, you know, when I was and I just like pulled back on that scale function. Super useful for that. Yeah, just kind of like evened out some of the high end, took away some of that really harsh 15, 16K and up, and then also just really wanted to make sure that upper harmonic came through, so that way if you listen to it on a phone, it just like really push it. And yeah, that's that sound. But that's not the only sound that's going on. There's also this thing that's just like the quarter note chugs going in the back. That sound is going in the background. That's almost like the more traditional like rhythm kind of sound right there, which this is like, I think, yeah, it's kind of based off of like that Dutch drum and bass sound. It's a sine wave with this, where's the retro? Yeah, it's in the vowel forms there. Yeah, it's got like a square wave on the wavetable position, so it's like and that's how a lot of like rhythm wank womps are created. And also you can see here on the formant, it's also switching position. And this is more controlling the volume of the wub. A little bit of chorus and distortion. Yeah, that chorus is kind of important. It really gives it that, like, the wide feeling there. It also looks like I'm boosting the width actually a bit. Yeah, I just really wanted a super wide sound because this sound over here is kind of taking more up in the middle. There's also this sound, which is almost like, it's that same exact pattern, but it's just like a higher pitched, yeah, just two saw waves and some sort of metal percussion sample I have. Controlling that. Yeah, it's got a filter, dimension to spread it. Oh yeah, here on the group I'm also doing some processing, a little bit more EQing there. I think that upper harmonic was going a little too crazy. I know I keep on boosting it beforehand, but you know, sometimes it takes boosting and cutting to like land in the sweet spot. And then another space creator for the whole group. You can barely tell it's there, but you know, I feel like it gives it its own room. Kind of like by giving a whole group its own like really short reverb tail, you're like, it's a little bit different way of gluing things together without like using compression or like glue compressor or something like that, because it gives, you know, coherency to a lot of different elements, so that way they are perceived as one. And then I am gluing them together with some multi-band dynamics over here. And then also I'm doing this really weird thing where I'm automating. So I have a high-low splitter. So this fine thing is, the shifter is really just like almost adding like an attack. You can barely tell like it's there. But it's really more for these sections here, where you can feel it with it's like a riser. Oh yeah, and then this is like my own like variation. And that's what I really encourage y'all to do, is like in these recreations of tracks, it's not about just recreating the track, it's recreating the track to like learn and then expand on from there. So that way you can apply it to your own original creations. And that's why I love doing this, is because I was like, how can I take the energy of this, but then bring my own musicality and rhythmic sense into this. And then I made a second drop. Also on the group here, I forgot to mention, we have the sidechain, which is literally just a utility. And you can see I've shaped it differently for the kick and the snare. I just really want those transients to come through, and I want the kick to really feel like it's sucking the entire mix out when it hits. And then for the snare, I just really want that transient to come through, and the rest of the sound can come back pretty fast. And then what the heck is this? Oh, the snow, yeah, the snow verb. So it's like a reverb thing. Gives it a little bit of extra space and like takes away a bit of the sub right before the next phrase. Kind of creates this distinction between each of the parts. Also, those vocal shout, those help out a bit too. The drums, dubstep drums, I was using Subtronics samples from Splice just because I wanted to get that. I guess I'm using my flavors of tube compression just to really chunk it out. But other than that, I don't know, the drums aren't too novel or spectacular. I guess these kind of like little triplet glitchy things are kind of fun. Oh yeah, and then for the snare, yeah, I'm like taking out the transient of the clap to make sure the transients of the snares really poke through. But here I've got two transients. Oh, I guess This one, the transient is fuller there and less there. I guess that's why I layered them there. Oh yeah, bunch of cymbals. Man, I really EQ'd the heck out of the snare. I just really wanted that fundamental just pop through. Yeah, you can see the fundamental of the snare poking through right there. All right, I hope y'all enjoyed this. Let me know in the comments if you did, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And also, I'm going on tour, the Brain Tickler Tour, which I will throw up right here. The Brain Tickler Tour. Ah! Oh my God. I'm so excited. This is my first ever headline tour. The response has been amazing. Y'all are incredible. I hope to see you there. Hope to say hi and give you a sticker, and let's rock out. Oh yeah, and also you can go get all of my Magic Racks and Serum presets and all the producer tools that I make to help y'all out in this game of making music. I will see y'all in the future. Peace.